Okay, so we're live. We're live. When the blue light goes on means we're live, right?
Now live.
So I can't trust the blue light anymore.
You can trust it for YouTube and not for Facebook because
Okay.
Facebook got me a delay of about 10 seconds.
Okay. Okay, so yesterday was the Divine Appearance Day of Srila Gadadhar, Pandit Goswami, and I would like to, continue with our remembrance this morning, and I'd like to go through this article written by our Param Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Raksak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, called Pandit Sri Gadadhar Goswami, and this was originally published by our Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj in Gaudiya Darshan, 12th of August, 1956. Jai Gurudev. Jai Saraswati Didi ki jai. So, 12th of August, 1956, this was originally published. Okay, so we begin. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshorn Militanjena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sri Gadadhar Goswami is the highest amongst Sri Gauranga's intimate associates. As Sri Radhika's position is, in comparison to all, undisputedly the highest in Sri Krishna's Madhura Leela, so the special Audarya Madhura Ras in Sri Pandit Goswami's character is the object of the greatest attraction for Sri Gauranga, in comparison to all present within Sri Gaura Krishna's Audarya Leela and his service in Audarya Madhura Ras. The great souls see Sri Radha within Pandit Gadadhar. Pandit Gadadhar's appearance is during the summer on Amavasya, the new moon, in Jaishta, and his disappearance is 1 month later, on Amavasya in Asad. Pandit Goswami's life is a special offering of silent and complete self-sacrifice to his beloved. Only those who can taste unprecedented joy by appreciating the wonder within the ornament of contradiction in seeing the bag of a beggar on Lakshmi Devi's shoulder. Only those who can taste unprecedented joy by appreciating the wonder within the ornament of contradiction in seeing the bag of a beggar on Lakshmi Devi's shoulder are fit to appreciate the extraordinary glory of Srimat Pandit Goswami's unprecedented personality. From his childhood, he was very simple, quiet, modest, courteous, devoted to the Lord and the Brahmins, and affectionate to friends. Although he is gentle, he is timid. Although he is a surrendered soul, he feels offensive. Although he is fully realized, he feels inexperienced. And although he is a leader, he is a submissive servant. His attachment to his Lord Sri Gauranga is such that even the glances of Gaura Sundar's ordinary followers make him hesitant and timid. His mad absorption in his Guru, Sri Gaura, made him forget his mantra for worship. Even a little faith in Sri Gauranga attracts his heart from afar, so much so that as an expression of affection, he accepts insults as praise from anyone who has such attraction. I forgot about this line. It's incredible. Even a little faith in Sri Gauranga attracts his heart from afar, so much so that as an expression of affection, he accepts insults as praise from anyone who has such attraction. So he's saying and that he loves Mahaprabhu so much that if he sees that somebody else has even a little faith in Mahaprabhu, even if they go to insult Gadadhar, he will take those insults as praise. This is the evidence of of the highest type of devotion, where the least connection brings about, maximum appreciation, the least remembrance for one's beloved Lord. Even a little faith in Sri Gauranga attracts his heart from afar, so much so that as an expression of affection, he accepts insults as praise from anyone who has such attraction. Sri Pandit Goswami's character is, in gist, the more one has appreciation for the center, then the more anyone who's even remotely connected with that center, we will have appreciation. So in our practical service lives, that translates as, we're trying to serve our Gurudev, and we have such attachment for our Gurudev that anyone else who's also trying to serve our Gurudev, even if they are inimical to us, we will have maximum appreciation for them because they're also trying to serve our Gurudev, and we love our Gurudev. So anyone else who's trying to serve our Gurudev, we must also love them. This is the highest type of devotion. Sri Pandit Goswami's character is, in gist, like the neglected figure of one who has given away all one's wealth and willingly accepted the garb of a beggar. Sri Pandit Goswami's character is, in gist, like the neglected figure of one who has given away all one's wealth and willingly accepted the garb of a beggar. Sri Gadadhar's wealth is not external wealth. And now Srila Sridhar Maharaj lists a number of examples which are well known in the Vedic, world. Sri Gadadhar's wealth is not external wealth, like the kingdom Harishchandra sacrificed, or the bodies Shibi and Dadichi sacrificed. It is not like the nurse Pana's sacrifice of her dear son, or the sacrifice of queens like Padmini, who gave up their bodies for the sake of their chastity. It is unlike even Socrates' sacrifice of his body for the sake of propagating realization of the soul, or Jesus Christ's sacrifice of his body for the deliverance of the world. For a knower of the soul who is situated in the higher plane, sacrificing the body is a very insignificant notion. Abandoning the wealth of one's inner body, one's inherent spiritual wealth, is much more difficult to do. If we can appreciate a liberated soul's wealth of devotion, and beyond that the wealth of prema, then only will we appreciate the heartfelt mood within Sri Pandit Goswami's incomparable gift of the wealth of his heart. And that becomes understandable only by his grace and the grace of his associates. It is not possible for all these esoteric matters to become matters of quick, ordinary understanding. Still, appreciating their importance, we are overviewing them. Moreover, as the value of a gift is to be ascertained by assessing a gradation between gifts, so the gradation in the worthiness of the recipient of a gift is to be understood. So he's saying, we can appreciate Gadadhar's sacrifice, if we compare it to other types of sacrifice, we see that his sacrifice or his offering is superior. And so also, we may have a gradation in who is the recipient of such sacrifice, such an offering, such a gift. The greatness and result of a giver's gift will be as great as the gift's recipient is. According to this conception, there is no comparison to the greatness of both the substance and the recipient of Sri Pandit Goswami's gift of his heart. There is no comparison to the greatness of both the substance and the recipient of Sri Pandit Goswami's gift of his heart. This is because the wealth of Sri Radha's prem is the highest substance, and Sri Krishna Chandra, as the son of a Brahmin, Sri Gaura Sundar, is the greatest recipient of gifts. The wealth of Sri Radha's prem is the highest substance, and Sri Krishna Chandra is the greatest recipient of gifts. Sri Krishna Chandra, as the son of a Brahmin, Sri Gaura Sundar, is the greatest recipient of gifts. While discussing this matter, we are remembering the story of Sri Yajnavalkya. Again, a reference we're not so familiar with. As higher and higher conceptions of the soul were being discussed, and even after the highest conception was introduced, to answer an inquirer's inquiry about an even higher conception, Yajnavalkya Rishi gravely established the limit of curiosity's utility. Although we are unable to realize Sri Pandit Goswami's greatness, the great souls have preserved their divine understanding of Gadadhar's identity for us. We, however, as a result of our misfortune, are unable to have faith in that and immerse ourselves in the offense of irreverence. Furthermore, some attribute Sri Radha's inherent wealth to Nityananda Baladev or Das Gadadhar, fly the flag of their own speculations, become offenders to truth, and bar the door to their own perfection, Sarup Siddhi. Some, being unable to understand the nature of Gadadhar's worship of Gaura Krishna, dress Narayan as an enjoyer and invite him to enjoy, considering that Vishnu Priya's husband Gaura Narayan has an enjoying mentality. When Sri Krishna is adorned with Radha's heart, he is Sri Gaura, and when Gaura is apart from Radha, he is Sri Krishna. Only Sri Krishna is the object of worship for Madhura and all other rasas. Forms of the Lord such as Sri Ram do not have this qualification. Sri Gaura Sundar, the son of a Brahmin, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Dev, the leader of the sannyasis, has never and does never talk or otherwise interact with others' wives in the mood of a debauchee. Srila Sridhar Maharaj is addressing different, these aren't different misconceptions. This isn't something we come across here, but in India, there's all kinds of, misconceptions people have. Some of them are just quite horrible, actually. Sri Gaura Sundar, the son of a Brahmin, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Dev, the leader of the sannyasis, has never and does never talk or otherwise interact with others' wives in the mood of a debauchee. Seeing according to that conception that he enjoys what belongs to others, parakiya sambhog, is distasteful, rasabas, it is an offense. It is contrary to the teachings of the great souls, and it is a wicked misconception. In Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and the other authoritative works of the great souls, there are no occurrences or allusions to this conception of Gaura the enjoyer, Gaura Nagaravad, whatsoever, nor can there be. As a chaste wife, when her husband worships the deity, serves him by helping with his worship, and at that time does not obstruct his worship by conversing with him amorously according to the customs of matrimony. So in the pastimes of Sri Krishna Chandra, when he is meditative and dedicated to Sri Krishna's worship in Sri Radha's mood, in his pastimes of worshipping Sri Krishna himself in his form befitting for doing so, Sri Gauranga, Sri Gadadhar, Sri Radhika herself, lives a life of assistance to her master, who is dedicated to worship. This form alone is always manifest in Gadadhar. So this is a very nice analogy that Srila Sridhar Maharaj is giving, because the conception of Gaur Gadadhar is, it is a very fine conception, and it is very much subject to misunderstanding. That is why we don't perform that. It is considered to be the highest kind of worship, and we don't. It requires a very particular understanding, and so we don't do that kind of worship. That was Srila Bhakti Thakur's favorite form of worship. There was one occasion when Srila Gurudev was considering which deity to put in the temple in Govinda Kund, and somebody suggested, why not Gaur Gadadhar deities, like Bhakti Thakur. And Gurudev explained, this is a very fine, very high conception. He said, this is the private chamber of bhajan of Bhakti Thakur. And so Srila Sridhar Maharaj is given, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he's like in the mood of, he's Bhakti, Raksak, Sridhar, he's in the mood of a protector here, trying to guard, from misconception. And so there's this very nice example is here of the relationship between Gaur Gadadhar, Mahaprabhu and Gadadhar, Mahaprabhu is like a husband. He's performing worship of the deity. He's worshipping Krishna, and Gadadhar is like the wife who is assisting her husband in that worship. So at that time, they're not thinking of their own relationship. There's no amorous exchange between them at that time. The wife is assisting her husband, like from a little distance, like that. So it is a very, helpful analogy. Shri Radha and Krishna are always in the playful mood of Braja, and Shri Gadai and Gauranga are always in the Gadai is referring to Gadadhar, are always in the benevolent mood of Navadvip. So these are the two distinguishing characteristics of Vrindavan and Navadvip. Vrindavan characterized by play, by lila, by sweetness, and in Gaur lila, magnanimity, distribution of that sweetness, benevolence. Shri Radha and Krishna of Braja's Madhurya are Shri Gadadhar and Gauranga of Navadvip's Audarya. Their unity is obstructed by thinking otherwise. The common conceptions of practitioners should be abandoned, and the great soul's path should be strictly followed. Shri Gauranga is the deity of prema. Although Shri Krishna is the deity of prema, because enjoyment is predominant within him, he does not manifest as the deity of prema in all respects. Shri Gauranga, however, situated in the rasas of separation, vipralamba, and benevolence, Audarya, is the deity of prema for even the common conditioned souls. Shri Nityananda Prabhu, as the deity form of Shri Guru, eagerly roams from one soul's door to another to give that deity of prema to the sinners. Shri Advaita Prabhu, the deity of the highest auspiciousness, Shri Advaita Prabhu, the deity of the highest auspiciousness, called the Prem Avatar Shri Chaitanya Chandra, brought him to the earth and showed everyone the proper path. Shivas Pandit and the other devotees are the assistants and wealth in the god of Prema, Shri Gauranga's Sankirtan pastimes. Shri Sarup, Rup, Sanatan, Raghunath, Jiva, and so on, as nectarian streams from the fountain of Prema, are enlivening the entire world. This sinner, cherishing faint hope, is a beggar desirous of one drop of that nectar, The mercy of Shri Guru and Vaishnava is his only hope. Very beautiful. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gadadhar Giridhari Jai. So Mahaprabhu is the deity form of prema, Nityananda Prabhu is the deity form of Shri Guru, Advaita is the deity of the highest auspiciousness. And he performed the function of calling the deity of prema, Mahaprabhu, down to the earth. And then Srivas Pandit and other devotees are the assistants and wealth in the god of prema, Gauranga Sankirtan pastime. Shri Sarup, Rupa, Sanatan, Raghunath Jiva are nectarian streams from the fountain of prema, enlivening the entire world. And then Srila Sridhar Maharaj is saying, I am a beggar praying for one drop of that nectar. Sri Krishna assumed the form of the deity of prema, Sri Gauranga, to chant the glory of prema. Understanding that this was possible only by accepting the mood of his beloved Sri Radha, who is the highest repository of the wealth of prema, he took her mood. Sri Krishna will and did earnestly worship Sri Radha, but in his Gaura Leela with the devotees, his nature as Sri Krishna, that is, his nature of loving the gopis and becoming subdued by Sri Radha, manifest fully. Gaura's love for Gadadhar is extraordinary, but his love's form was reversed. Krishna wore the dress of Radha's mood, and Sri Radha stood destitute. This is Sri Gadadhar's form. During Gaura's worship of Krishna in Radha's mood, after Sri Gadadhar offered everything to his beloved, Gadadhar's bare, glorious form reflected into the vision of the eyes that hankered to see it, into the thirsty vision of the Lord's intimate associates who hanker for intense prema. My goodness, it's like we are so privileged, to hear such things. During Gaura's worship of Krishna in Radha's mood, after Sri Gadadhar offered everything to his beloved, Gadadhar's bare, glorious form reflected into the vision of the eyes that hankered to see it, into the thirsty vision of the Lord's intimate associates who hanker for intense prema. The object of worship dressed as the worshipper. The worshipper offered to the object of worship even the fountain of his offerings of worship, his heart, and stood in the glorious posture of Sarva Atma Arpan, offering the entire self. The object of worship dressed as the worshipper. The worshipper offered to the object of worship even the fountain of his offerings of worship, his heart, and stood in the glorious posture of Sarva Atma Arpan, offering the entire self. Therein, with the desire of attaining the invaluable wealth of the object of worship's attraction and love for the worshipper, the followers of Sri Gaura under Gadadhar's guidance discovered the unprecedented path and result of service to Sri Gauranga. With the desire of attaining the invaluable wealth of the object of worship's attraction and love for the worshipper, the followers of Sri Gaura under Gadadhar's guidance discovered the unprecedented path and result of service to Sri Gauranga. Gadadhar's followers tasted Sri Radha's ecstasy and separation, Vipralamba Ras, in a deeper way. Gadai Gauranga Jai, Janava Jivan, Sitapati Jai, Shiva Sadi Bhakta Gam. All glories to Gadadhar, Gauranga, Nityananda, Advaita, Srivas, and all the Lord's devotees. That's the end of the article.
Where is that article?
It's published. I published the link on the Jaya Shri Facebook page yesterday, but it's on both Prema Dharma and Gaudiya Darsham, the article. There's also some footnotes on Jagimars research and put some footnotes on who these, some references on who these persons were that, which I guess we can, I mean, it's not absolutely essential, but we still have time, so we can read that as well. So Harish Chandra, these are the examples that Srila Sridhar Maharaj mentioned of other sacrifices that are like celebrated within the the Vedic world. So Harish Chandra was a member of the Solar dynasty and king of Ayodhya, mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures, to keep his promise to Vishwamitra of giving the sage whatever he desired. Harish Chandra gave up his kingdom, sold himself, his wife, and his son into slavery, and underwent extreme hardships. Ultimately, he served as a slave operating a cremation ground, and was forced to demand payment for the cremation of his own son from his wife, who had become the slave of a wicked Brahmin. When his virtue had been tested to the extreme, the gods appeared with Vishwamitra and blessed Harish Chandra, his wife, son, and all of Harish Chandra's former subjects in Ayodhya with the king in heaven. So it was some type of test. Vishwamitra asked him, he had promised Vishwamitra he would give him whatever he wanted, but he didn't know what he was signing up for. But in the end, there was a happy ending. So some extreme, example of sacrifice. He was ready to sacrifice everything for the sake of keeping his promise to a sage. And then Shibi, another person Srila Sridhar Maharaj mentioned, was a benevolent and dutiful king, mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures, whose virtue was tested by the demigods. Once a pigeon fell into Maharaj Shibi's lap and prayed to the king for safety from an eagle who was chasing him. The eagle then came and demanded the pigeon. Maharaj Shibi, having promised to protect the pigeon, eventually appeased the eagle by agreeing to give the eagle a quantity of his own flesh, equal to the weight of the pigeon. As he repeatedly cut flesh from his body and placed it onto a scale, the pigeon again and again outweighed the flesh. Lastly, the king put himself on the scale, in effect, sacrificing his life to keep his word and set a virtuous example for his subjects. Seeing this, the eagle and pigeon revealed themselves to be Indra and Agni and blessed Maharaj Shibi with a place in heaven. This is you find these kind of examples, in the Vedic culture, like these extreme examples of honoring your word, I promise to protect the pigeon. I'm ready to give up my life for that. This is the culture, It's so serious, so serious. It's like in the case of Nityananda Prabhu, when his father told that sannyasi, what can I give you something? I'll give you whatever you want, and I would like your son. And then Harai Pandit, it practically kills him, to have to give his beloved, his son is his life, Nityananda, Nitai. But in order to keep his word, he would rather, fulfill his promise rather than maintain his sanity, and he goes mad. Like, this is the culture, it's so strong. Then also in the Mahabharata, there's the case of Draupadi, right? When Arjuna wins her, the Swayamvar, and he brings her back, and then Kunti Devi, the mother, right? She has her back turned, and they tell her, the 5 Pandavas and Draupadi are approaching, and they tell her, "Oh, look what Arjuna has brought, or look what we've brought today." Like thinking, normally they would go out and collect some alms, some food for sustenance. So they said it like kind of a jokey way. "Look what we've brought back today," and then Kunti says, "Oh, whatever it is, share it amongst you equally." So that's all she said, because she's thinking it's food, But because of her word, then they have to take that literally. Oh, that means, we all have to marry Draupadi. Like, the culture is so strong. Nowadays, it's like so foreign, lying. And this is Kali Yuga, right? It's the age of quarrel, lying, hypocrisy. Oh, it's difficult to relate to. And it's, quite inspiring. And then there's another example here of Dadichi, a sage mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures, who performed austerities, upheld vows, developed a body that was extremely strong, acquired absolute knowledge, and mastered the chanting of a kavacha, protective mantra, which made him invincible. When Indra and the other gods were threatened by Trasta and Vritasura, they prayed to the Lord for help. The Lord instructed them to ask Dadichi Muni for his body and then have Vishwakarma make a Vajra, supernatural thunderbolt weapon with the body's bones. So this stage, went through all this trouble to, have this very strong body. And then when there's some demons attacking, disturbing the demigods, they ask the Lord for help, and he tells them to use this sage's, body to make a special weapon, thunderbolt weapon. At the god's request, Dadichi discussed the virtue of dedicating oneself to the upliftment of others, began to meditate, offered himself to the Lord, and gave up his body on the spot. Indra later defeated Vritrasura with the Vajra made from the bones of Dadichi's body. And then there's another example here of Pana, a nursemaid who served in the royal palace of the Mewar kingdom. During the rule of the Rajput Maharaj Sangram Singh in the 16th century, she was in charge of caring for the king's 2 young sons, Vikramaditya and Uday, and her own son Chandan, who was the same age as the second prince. After King Sangram Singh died during his battle with Babur, his distant cousin Banbir attempted to usurp his throne. Banbir killed Vikramaditya and then came to kill the younger prince Uday. Pana heard news of this, hid Uday in a basket, sent a servant to hide the basket in the forest outside the palace, and placed her own son Chandan in Uday's bed. Banbir soon entered with his sword drawn, and Pana watched as he killed her son, thinking him to be Uday. Wow. Because she understands the importance of continuing the royal line, So she knows there's this plot to kill the 2 princes so that there's no heir. And so she exchanges her own son with the only remaining prince, So her own son is killed for the sake of the kingdom.
Is it in Mahabharata?
This story.
It doesn't describe it as being, doesn't mention. I don't know if it's mentioned in the scriptures. This is more recent times. This is in the 16th century. I think it's something described in more recent history. It just says she's a nursemaid who served in the royal palace of the Mewar kingdom during the rule of Rajput Maharaj Sangram Singh in the 16th century. So this is just a few hundred years ago. This is post-Vedic times. So Pana cremated Chandan, her son, and then escaped in the middle of the night with Uday in the basket, the prince. She raised the boy in the Jain kingdom of Kumbhalgad, and when he matured, Pana revealed his identity. He later returned to Mewar, defeated Banbir, and continued the kingdom's dynasty. My goodness, what a righteous lady. Wow, amazing. Then we have another example. Padmini was the queen of Chittor during the 13th century, who was one. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj is using all these examples which are like in popular culture, we could say at the time, like were well known at the time he was writing and could be appreciated by that audience. So the queen of Chittor during the 13th century, who was won by King Rawal Ratan Singh in a Swayamvar ceremony, the Sultan Alauddin, or maybe you pronounce it Aladdin, Khilji, heard about Rani Padmini's beauty. I think they actually made a Bollywood movie about this. It's called Padmini. And decided to acquire her by force for his harem. He came and laid siege upon Chittor. King Rawal Ratan Singh eventually compromised with Aladdin Khilji by allowing him to once see Padmini's reflection in a mirror. Thereafter, Aladdin Khilji kidnapped King Rawal Ratan Singh. Padmini sent a message to Aladdin Khilji that he could take her in exchange for the king. So this evil king, held this other king hostage. And then Padmini said, okay, you can have me if you return my husband, the king. But she tricked him. She came to meet Aladdin and the king with a troop of 150 palanquins filled with soldiers hiding inside.
What's a palanquin?
Palanquin is those carriers that they carry like royalty in, So like he thinks it's the queen and like 100 of her maids like coming in this like royal procession, but actually there's armed soldiers hiding in each of the palanquins are like fancy things that the royalty will be carried in, but it's not like you'd expect, military situation there. So she came to meet Aladdin and the king with a troop of 150 palanquins filled with soldiers hiding inside. When she arrived, the soldiers freed the king, and Padmini safely fled back to Chittor. Later, when Aladdin returned with a stronger army, and Padmini came to understand that defeat was imminent, she and all the women of Chittor committed johar, self-immolation, in a massive pyre. They entered fire willingly, rather than lose her chastity by being taken by this other king. She preferred to give up her own life. And not only her, but all the women of the city. My goodness. And then we have Socrates, a Greek philosopher, who propounded, among other things, the conception that the soul is eternal and that the soul's needs should take precedence over those of the body. Socrates lived under the regime of materialistic government, which he openly and profoundly critiqued, both in writing and in public. He was considered a social gadfly, and eventually he was arrested on the charges of corrupting the minds of the youths of Athens and introducing new ideas about the divine. Because he was making trouble, because their whole mode of existence was, there's no afterlife, we just enjoy, But if there's an afterlife, then you're accountable for your actions, then the importance of morality and such, comes into play. So they didn't he was like spoiling their enjoyment. So they arrested him on the charges of corrupting the minds of the youths of Athens and introducing new ideas about the divine. During his trial, Socrates openly admitted his guilt, and when he was asked about what his punishment should be, he replied, "A lifetime pension and free dinner each day in exchange for the services I offer the city of Athens." Eventually he was sentenced to death, and though his disciples bribed the guards holding him in captivity, he denied the chance to escape to another state. So he had an opportunity to escape, but instead requested that the poisoned hemlock for his execution be brought to him at once. He chose to die in this way to show he had no fear of death, compel others to have faith in the immortality of the soul, and demonstrate that spiritual values should take precedence over material ends. So Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he's using all of these examples of persons who are highly respected because of their sacrifice, and then explaining that although those things are appreciated in relation to this world, once we come to the conception of the soul being eternal, then it cannot be considered such a great sacrifice too. Although from our present level of realization and our conditioned state, it seems like a very big sacrifice, and it is relative to where we are. From a higher perspective, from the perspective of Atma, it is a very negligible thing. It is inconsequential. Oh, I'm sacrificing money. What is the value of money? I'm sacrificing my body. What is the value of your body? From the highest perspective. And then lastly, it's something about Yajnavalkya, who was mentioned, a disciple of Vaisampayan Rishi, who was a disciple of Krishna Dvaipayan Vedavyas. Yajnavalkya prayed to the Lord in the form of the sun and was enlightened with the Vajrasaneyi Samhita of the Yajurveda, which was then new to human society. He later taught Janaka Raj and served as a priest in the Rajasuya sacrifice performed by the Pandavas under Lord Krishna's direction. His teachings are found in the Mahabharata, the Upanishads, and the Puranas. And we weren't able to find that exact. Srila Sridhar Maharaj mentions a particular reference about him, but we weren't able to find that. But this is just some general history of who he is. Okay, well, very extraordinary article. Definitive article on Srila Gadadhar Pandit's paramount sacrifice. So wonderful. Jai Srila Gadadhar Pandit Goswami ki Jai, Srila Bhakti Raksak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Do you want to sing?